Good afternoon, I'm Vashon Brown with the Midday News. Special welcome if you're watching on onespotmedia.com. A reminder as well that you can watch TVJ live by downloading our One Spot Media app in the Google Play Store or the App Store. That's the number 1 followed by the words Spot Media. The Buff Bay Cemetery in Portland will be closed temporarily to burials. The cemetery was closed after a site visit to clear additional lands for burial revealed there may be interference with underground water sources. Director of Planning Nicole Condepa says the recommendation to close was given following a report by the Water Resources Department. Speaking at the Portland Municipal Corporation meeting yesterday, Councillor for the Buff Bay Division Dion Hunter said residents have threatened to block roads in the area due to the closure. She says residents complain that other cemeteries have been refusing their dead.
Someone said that when I sent to Obi and St. Marcus Bay, they refused to take them.
Move to the left.
Residents are being advised to carry their dead to the Hopi and St. Margaret's Bay cemeteries for burial. The government is yet to respond to the Jamaica Used Car Dealers Association's proposal to intervene in the stalemate involving O'Brien's International Car Sales and Rental. It was expecting a response on Wednesday. However, President of the association, Lynn Vale Hamilton, says he's still expecting a favorable response following its meeting on Tuesday with the Ministry of National Security and the Attorney General's chambers. Mr. Hamilton's aim is to assist the management of O'Brien's International to find a workable solution to deliver the remaining vehicles for the Jamaica Constabulary Force as agreed under the contract with the National Security Ministry. Now, the problems arose after O'Brien's International failed to deliver all of the 200 vehicles it was contracted to supply for the police force. It has so far handed over 33. Another 66 vehicles have been sitting on the wharf as the relevant taxes amounting to about $14 million have not been paid. The government has refused the request from O'Brien's International to pay the taxes. The National Security Ministry has already called in a $42 million performance bond supplied by O'Brien's International as a condition of the contract. News has emerged of more industrial unrest in the public sector over the pace of the wage negotiations for the 2017-2019 contract period. The Jamaica Civil Service Association, JCSA, says it will be writing to the Ministry of Finance today to inform it that government-paid workers are restive. The association will also outline its concerns about not being called back to the negotiating table. JCSA President O'Neill Grant says a meeting was scheduled for last month but was cancelled.
Been able to move past that first meeting that we had with the Ministry of Finance, and despite asking for a date for November 9th, is the date that we asked for, we didn't get that date. We are now well into December and we still haven't gotten a date. So the members are restive and they are calling for some sort of action. We are trying to encourage the ministry to set a date and sit down with us with meaningful discussions to have the JCSA's claim discussed. So we are hoping that through some means or the other they will recognize that we are in fact very serious about what we have to do. And they will call us to the table so that we can start to push the negotiations further.
This development coincides with the sick-out by several rank-and-file members of the Jamaica Constabulary Force. The industrial action started on Monday after the government failed to improve its 6% wage offer to the Police Federation. The government is coming under more fire about its handling of the crime situation following the killing of a PNP councillor caretaker and her son at their Paisley Avenue home in Clarendon on Wednesday. 44-year-old Carol Ibanks, the PNP caretaker for the Maypen East Division, and her son, 21-year-old Jevon Miles, were both shot dead by gunmen Wednesday night. For her colleagues at the Clarendon Municipal Corporation, including Councillor for the Milk River Division, Carlton Bailey, this year's murder figures show the government is not doing enough.
We were told a few months ago that we would have been able to live with our doors and windows open. And I believe a large block of Jamaicans bought into that thought and that idea. But we are now seeing where that pronouncement or announcement was just a fallacy to gain power. Look at what is happening in Jamaica. We are seeing women murdered, children murdered. We are seeing old women being raped.
The councillors are also knocking the government for its handling of police-related matters, including the ongoing wage negotiations.
And resolve by providing resources for the policemen and women to fight this crime, and one of which is the motor vehicle, which is long and overdue for the policemen and women. Proper police station which they are able to work in comfort and do their work effectively, and also this vexing matter of their salary increase.
I support the police wholeheartedly, but their hands are tied. They are tied by income, they are tied by lack of proper wages, they are tied by no way of being mobile to serve and protect the citizens that they vow to do.
Attorneys representing national cyclist Marlo Rodman, who has been charged with manslaughter, are expected to make an application for bail on Monday in the St. Catherine Parish Court. He's represented by Tom Tavares Finson and Donahue Martin Jr. Mr. Rodman was charged in relation to the death of Anthony Gordon. It's reported that on November 27, Mr. Rodman was doing stunts on his motorcycle along Gordon Boulevard in St. Catherine when he lost control of the motorcycle, which hit Mr. Gordon. Mr. Rodman, who was also injured in the incident, remains hospitalized. And we go now to news overseas. Senior leaders in Australia's Catholic Church have rejected calls by a wide-reaching investigation into child abuse to end mandatory celibacy for priests and break the secrecy of confession. The Australian Royal Commission into Institutional Responses to Child Sexual Abuse, which concluded Thursday after 5 years of work, delivered a total of 189 new recommendations to address what it described as a serious failure by Australia's institutions to protect its most vulnerable citizens. We go to the CNN for more.
Catholics, we hang our heads in shame.
In Australia, a high-level royal commission has revealed the scale of child sex abuse by Catholic priests. It's the first time ever that the country's Catholic Church has acknowledged the extent of the problem. The commission found that over the past 35 years, 4,444 victims have come forward to allege some form of child sexual abuse. Those victims identified 1,880 male and female perpetrators, including priests, religious sisters, and religious brothers, plus another 500 people unidentified. Much of the evidence, the commission says, is anecdotal. No word on any criminal charges, but the inquiry continues. Francis Sullivan heads the Catholic Church's Truth, Justice and Healing Council, which assisted the Royal Commission, and he says it's time for the Church to put the issue to the forefront.
People in positions of privilege covered it up. They were more interested in protecting the image of the Catholic Church than they were in protecting children and believing victims.
The commission reported that over a 60-year period, 7% of priests were alleged perpetrators. A report commissioned by the U.S. Conference of Catholic Bishops found that over the same time period, 5.6% of priests in the U.S. had been accused of abuse. The Vatican formed a commission in 2014 to investigate claims of priest abuse, and so far the Vatican has not officially commented on the Australian commission.
And we're still on the international scene. A UN official who returned from Pyongyang said he's really worried about an accidental move toward conflict. Tensions between North Korea and the United States have risen markedly in the past year. Pyongyang's weapons programs have passed critical thresholds this year, to the point where many in Washington consider both North Korea's nuclear capability an imminent threat. The details from the CNN.
They've talked publicly about what they described as hostile U.S. policy. They need to see a change in hostile U.S. policy, and so we tried to explore that. Exactly what does that mean? What signals would they be looking for? But I'm really concerned, Christiane, that you've got a lack of any kind of viable communications at the technical level. There's no military-to-military talks across the 38th parallel. There's no trust right now, and there's nuclear and military developments that defy Security Council resolutions. This is a really dangerous combination. So we're really trying to emphasize the need to move in a different way, comply with the Security Council resolutions, open up some kind of technical channels that would allow, or that would prevent the risk of war. I'm reminded of that recent book that came out by the historian Christopher Clark about World War I, the sleepwalkers. I'm really worried about a accidental move toward conflict given the overall refusal to comply with the Security Council and the lack of trust, the lack of communication, the high risk of some kind of miscalculation.
Now time for sports. For the first time in the 27-year history of the Jamaica Racing Commission's Trainers Program, an entire cohort has finished the course with passing grades. Here's Spencer Darlington.
The 22 assistant trainers who began their formal training in March were presented with their diplomas at Tuesday evening's graduation ceremony at the headquarters of the Jamaica Racing Commission. The components of the course included the anatomy, physiology, conformation, energy mechanism, blood flow, muscle development and nutrition of horses, as well as animal health, saddling gear and equipment for horses. The course, which ran from March through to December, was conducted by the Jamaica Racing Commission's Veterinary and Stewards Departments. The course required candidates to attain 70% or over for the exam in Part 1 in order to proceed to Part 2. 3 of the graduates, Carlos Leung, Ian Roberts, and Sean Williams, received honors for achieving scores over 90%. Williams, who was the valedictorian, also copped the Chairman's Award for the Best Overall Performance, as well as the Dr. St. Aubin Bartlett Award for the Best Practical Performance. He has been an assistant trainer for 22 years and has worked with 6 different trainers.
Well, the first step is getting horses, getting owners to put their trust in you and getting horses to you. And the second step is acquiring stables and stalls to house the horses. And then after that, now you'll take time and implement what it is that you have learned into the regime of training.
The other sectional accolade went to Carlos Leung, who took home the Dr. Sophia Ramlal Award for producing the best theoretical performance. The group includes 2 females, Keisha Lawrence and Kibisha Little. Racing Secretary Denzel Miller Jr. also explained how the graduates will have to go about acquiring stables.
It's a slow process. It's somewhat performance hinged, but for them to get started, what they got to do at first is get on a letter from a trainer who has an MTR2 who can assist them. And then once we get that letter, we'll confirm that the MTs are there. And from there, we'll give them a cover letter so they can then take it to the commission to then complete their application for a trainer's license.
When the 22 graduates receive their trainer's license from the Jamaica Racing Commission, it will bring the number of practicing trainers at Caymanas Park to 164. Spencer Darlington, TVJ Sports.
And that's the Midday News. I'm Vashon Brown. Join us at 7 for Primetime News Package. On behalf of the news, sports and production teams, have a good afternoon and have a great weekend.